Okay, here we are again. Hi guys, it's Miss Cat, and I've got another book. When the Monkeys Came Back. When the monkeys came back. So if you remember, we're talking about who lives in trees, and as you can see, monkeys live in trees. So on the cover here, we've got all kinds of monkeys. And this book is written by Christine L. Franklin. She wrote the words, she's the author. And the illustrator, the person who drew the pictures, that's Robert Roth. So let's see what's going on inside and find out what happens when the monkeys came back. Oh, this is really cool picture on the first page. Do you see that? When Dona Marta was very little, the valley was a peaceful place. Children giggled as they chased each other between rows of tall corn. Fathers whistled as they dug in the garden. Mothers hummed softly as they wrapped black beans and cornmeal in banana leaves to cook. There was one old road in the valley, but it was an ox cart road. Into day, the changing of day into night. At dawn they would howl and bark to one another, and the noise they made was like thunder in the trees. At dusk they would hoot and scream, and each leaf and each blade of grass would tremble from the sound. See all those monkeys making that racket? They're making all kinds of noise. Can you think of another animal that makes a bunch of noise when the sun comes up? One day, a car chugged and sputtered up the old road. After that, more cars came. Not many at first, for the road was an old ox road, not a road for cars. Marta was afraid of the cars. The sound and smell made her hide behind her mother's skirt. More and more cars came, and trucks, and more noise. Before long, it wasn't safe to walk down the middle of the road, to stand and talk, to chase quick lizards. Still, the monkeys shouted from the trees, drowning out all the new noises for a few moments each day, hooting to one another as they always had, waking up the world in the morning, calling the workers home from the fields at night. See all the cars that are arriving? See, they don't look like cars today. Those are old-timey cars. The rains came and went, and Marta's dress grew short. And one day some men from the city came to Marta's house. only the biggest ones, the ones with hanging vines. The monkeys didn't seem to mind. They howled and barked and scolded just as before. But 5 years later, when there were only 24 trees left in the forest, the monkeys went away. See all the trees getting cut down? Do you think 20? Marta didn't know where the monkeys went. One night, just as the sun slipped behind the hills, the monkeys shrieked and hooted and cried, louder than ever before. Some said it was over the next several years, the last of the trees were cut down. What had once been a forest was now covered. Forgot about the monkeys. They had roosters to wake them up in the morning and lamps to work by at night. But Marta didn't forget. Why do you think the monkeys left? Why did the monkeys leave when the trees got cut down? When she was 15 years old, Marta married Emilio. Emilio worked for Marta's father, and when her father died, he left his farm to Marta and Emilio. "You have a lot of land now," said Marta one day. "Own land. Soon we will have a family to feed," said Emilio. "And after I plant corn and beans and squash, there will be nothing left over to give to you. The rest of the land belongs to the cows." "What about the land on the side of the mountain?" asked Marta. "There are too many stumps for a garden." He gave the land. "With your land?" asked Emilio. "I'm going to bring back the forest," said Marta. And that's what she did. Do you see her hands down in the dirt? What is she doing? What is that green thing that she's putting in the earth? What do you think those are? How is she going to bring the forest back? Marta planted trees from the foot of the mountain to as far up as she could climb. And when the sun baked the ground in the dry season, she hauled buckets of water to the trees. And when the hard rain washed the little trees away from the soil, she replanted them. See these buckets in her hand? Do you know that there's water in the water to give to her plants so that the trees can grow? Year after year, Marta took care of the trees. In the next 15 years, she gave birth to 11 children. Each child learned to plant and tend trees. Year after year, Marta's children grew tall, and so did the trees. "Coffee grows well on a mountain," Emilio would tease. "Maybe you could plant coffee on your land." But Marta didn't listen. She didn't change her mind, and the forest grew back. See her kids in the forest? They're growing, aren't they? Many more years passed. The trees grew higher and higher. Marta's children grew up and had children of their own. Emilio died and left the farm to Marta and her sons. One day, old Donna Marta took a walk down the road in the warm sunshine. The children greeted her as she passed. "Good morning, tree lady," they said. "Good morning," answered Donna Marta with a wink and an old, old smile. She leaned on her stick and stared across the valley. Oops, you want to see the picture, don't you? Do you see Marta as an old woman? The village children call her the tree lady. Her trees touched the sky. Thick vines wrapped around their trunks. Birds of every color filled their branches. Now wherever they dropped their seeds, new trees would grow. The valley was bright with squash and corn and beans, but the side of the mountain was a deep, dark green forest. Donna Marta's work was finished. What's in those trees? Do you see? Not only did she get the trees to grow, but all kinds of wildlife came back. One night, Donna Marta couldn't sleep. As she lay in her bed, she listened to the sounds of insects, the twittering of night birds, and out her little window she watched the stars trail across the black sky. She watched the moon shadows shift and change in her room. And as dawn approached, she heard the roosters begin to crow. And then she heard another sound. At first it sounded like the barking of dogs, but soon the barking turned into howling, the howling into shrieks, the shrieks into shouts, and every leaf and every blade of grass trembled with the sound. Donna Marta hobbled to the window and leaned out. The dark air thundered with the sound of monkeys hooting, howling, screaming from the treetops, waking up the whole world once again. Donna Marta closed her eyes, smiled a wrinkled smile, and listened to the music she had missed for 56 long years. You see her listening from her bed, and that beautiful night sky in the background. Every morning now, old Donna Marta wakes up to the barking and scolding of the monkeys. Every evening she waits for them to gather in the trees to shriek and howl and say good night. For a few moments each morning and at evening, the sound of the monkeys drown out all the other sounds in the valley. For a few moments each day, it's as if nothing had ever changed. The end. So, I really hope you like that story. The pictures were so beautiful, weren't they? And Donna Marta, she taught us something, didn't she? Even one person can make a difference. She planted all those trees with her own two hands, and she carried water to make sure they had what they needed to grow. And those trees grew big and strong, and then all the wildlife, including the monkeys, came back because the trees were their home. Isn't that a great story? I hope you really enjoyed it. Have a good day, guys.